Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So we are beginning our continuing our Rajoga class after a long time. As you all know, that every Thursday, alternately, last Thursday, I mean, not the previous Thursday, the Thursday before that, we had Master as I saw him. So Thursday has been reserved for Swami Vivekananda's topics. One is Master as I saw him, and on the alternate Thursday, we will discuss Raj Yoga. And then, of course, we have classes on Saturday and Sunday. Next Saturday, it will be Bhagavad Gita, and Sunday, it will be Gospel and Great Master alternately. So anyway, since we were discussing Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, and we were discussing the topic of avidya. So I'll go back a little bit so that there will be no discontinuity. Whatever we were discussing, the idea, as I've told you many times, yoga philosophy or Sankhya philosophy, from which yoga has been derived, it bases itself on two things. One is Purusha and Prakriti. It is like Brahman and Shakti. Sri Ramakrishna made it very simple. He said there is Brahman, and when Brahman is active, it is Shakti. So that is according to Tantras and a synthesis of different philosophies which we find in the philosophy of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna came to make things very simple, the Shastras very simple, because there were so many systems. We have 6 systems in Hinduism, the 6 main systems of philosophy. Plus, there are so many sects based on different systems. In Vedanta itself, we have so many systems, and it often gets confusing because we have Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa was based on the ritualistic portion of the Vedas, and Kumaril Bhatta, who was an expert in Purva Mimamsa, he was the one who guided Shankaracharya, though Shankaracharya belonged to the Uttar Mimamsa or Vedanta school. Uttar Mimamsa is popularly known as Vedanta, but Purva Mimamsa is that portion of the Vedas. They hold Vedas to be the ultimate authority. So they don't distinguish between the Karma Kanda and the Jnana Kanda, that is Upanishads. They take Upanishads to be true, but at the same time, they accept the other portions also true. Whereas Vedanta says the ritualistic portion keeps on changing. Different ages, different rishis come and different prophets come, and the eternal values don't change, but the values, the rituals, the methods of worship, everything changes. So also Purva Mimamsa, which was Kumarila Bhatta, was one who guided Shankaracharya. He was about to die when Shankaracharya goes to him. It is somewhere near Ujjaini, and that is when he directs him to go to Mandana Mishra. He says, you go to him, because Shankaracharya wanted to understand what the Purva Mimamsa philosophy says, though he did not believe that rituals are necessary for realizing Brahman, but he still wanted to learn the Purva Mimamsa philosophy because they are firm in their belief. They are one with the Uttar Mimamsa people or Vedantic people, that the Vedas are the true source of knowledge, which even Vedanta agrees. But Vedanta says that portion which deals with eternal values is to be taken. Not everything in the Vedas are of equal importance. So Shankaracharya, of course, goes to his disciple, Kumarila Bhatta's disciple, whose name was Mandana Mishra. Of course, Mandana Mishra loses the debate. They have a conversation with each other, and then finally he shows. And the condition was that whoever loses the debate, and the judge of all people, the judge who judged this debate was the wife of Mandana Mishra. Mandana Mishra's wife, Ubay Bharati, she was a great scholar herself. And she was very impartial. She said, because in those days they respected knowledge and women were empowered. That shows that women had a very big role to play in the preaching of scriptures. So the wife of Mandana Mishra became the judge, and finally, we all know how Mandana Mishra, the debate lasted for a very long time, and finally he lost because he was the best exponent of the Purva Mimamsa philosophy. And Shankaracharya, after defeating him, because he had defeated the other schools, but he wanted to somehow defeat this school, which was very powerful because they believed in the eternal nature of the Vedas. So anyway, after defeating him, he agreed to become a disciple, and he was one of the main disciples who took charge of the Sringeri Mutt. Shankaracharya established 4 mutts. 4 of his primary disciples, main disciples, were assigned the charge of different mutts in 4 corners of India. I'm telling you all this because these 2 philosophies, Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa, are intimately connected to the Sankhya Yoga philosophy. The Sankhya is another school, Yoga is another school. Patanjali's Yoga and Ishwar Krishna, or you can say Kapila Muni, who started the Sankhya philosophy. And I started in the sense, the Sankhya is a very old philosophy, but he wrote the sutras, and there are Sankhya Sutras of Ishwar Krishna also wrote some books. And the Sankhya continued to influence all the philosophers. Even Gita, Bhagavad Gita, the 2nd chapter, instead of calling it Jnana Yoga, they call it Sankhya Yoga. So it was so popular. In fact, Buddha, who is supposed to be one of the inspiration behind the yoga school, because a lot of things they say the yoga school, the later yoga school, not the original Patanjali or maybe his predecessors. They were much earlier than Buddha. But a lot of borrowing has taken place. So you find the meditation techniques that we find in Buddhism, they are very close to the yoga system. Of course, there is a lot of difference. Buddhism accepts a different type of, except they don't accept the Vedas, in fact. Whereas Sankhya and Yoga both accept the Vedas, but they have their own system. But they are all interconnected. That is why certain ideas like Brahman, Shakti, which is a later concept, it has come from Tantras, they have similarities in yoga. So according to the Sankhya philosophy, which was used by the all the Vedantic gurus, I mean the Vedantic acharyas, except Shankara. Shankara disagreed with many things because Sankhya accepted 2 realities. One is Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the consciousness, which is pure consciousness, which is not connected with anything that is in the world. It is not material, neither it is the mind. So Prakriti is something in which change can be seen. So when the Purusha and the Prakriti, so yoga, many people say yoga means joining together. So they, in a very simplistic way, we say Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, union of the Jiva with the Lord. That is a common meaning. But in Patanjali's yoga, yoga actually means viyoga, separation. What do you mean? How can it separation be yoga? Yoga is normally meant to mean yuj. It has come from the yuj root, which means to join two things together. Now, what do you join? You join the individual soul with the supreme soul. It's a very logical explanation. But Patanjali very clearly says yoga means not the joining actually. It has been defined as viyoga. Viyoga means separation. So what do you separate? You separate Purusha from Prakriti. So all the ignorance, as we discussed the 5 kleshas, those of you who are following these classes, they will understand, but I'll still repeat, there are 5 kleshas which constitute all our problems. Human mind is such that you don't need a psychologist or a psychiatrist to solve. He will give so many names like depression and then and so many other bipolar, and there are so many hundreds of new names are discovered every day to explain the simple problems that a human being faces. But nobody goes to the fundamental problem of all human beings. Patanjali did not want to waste his time analyzing the mind and classifying into so many categories like our modern psychiatrists do. And they confuse. In fact, they create more problems than they solve. I mean, they may give some temporary solutions, some medicines and other things, the drugs which may temporarily calm down the mind, but ultimately the solution lies in what Patanjali prescribed. It is such a great science. So he said, what are our problems? Just as Buddha wanted to know, what are the problems? He was happy, he had a very nice family and lived in a very comfortable life. But somehow he felt when he saw sorrow, that's why they say sorrow is necessary to understand the negative side of Prakriti. Prakriti sometimes shows us the positive side, and we are very happy thinking the negative side will never come to us. So, but Patanjali, he was a scientist. His approach to yoga was very scientific. He says Prakriti has a dual nature. It is like a double-edged sword. One side, it removes ignorance. Prakriti has the power to remove avidya, that is ignorance. And on the other side, it can increase our ignorance. So Prakriti, how you handle Prakriti? That is why Thakur, in his very simple way, he equated Prakriti to Shakti. And he said, without Vidya Maya, or without the help of Shakti or the Vidya Maya, you can't be free from bondage, because she binds you and she has the power to release you. So in both cases, you have to accept Prakriti. But then what does Viyoga mean? Why should Prakriti be separated from Purusha? Because Prakriti has a very peculiar tendency to create confusion. Consciousness is pure, eternal, free, and full of bliss. It is of the nature of, you can say, Satchidananda. That is not actually a proper definition, but that is the best possible definition a mind can understand. Sat, Chit, and Ananda, eternal existence, eternal consciousness, eternal joy, and bliss. But somehow we see in Prakriti there is bliss, but 50% of the time we get sorrow also. So how can we say, the modern people will say, you say Prakriti is full of bliss, Shakti, but we see the other side. Yes, that is also, pain is also part of, or dukkha also is part of that. So how to generalize it? So Patanjali said, avidya is according to Shankara's Vedanta, which has borrowed many things from Sankhya, but does not accept Sankhya and Yoga. Shankara says, you remove avidya, everything will go. But that is so difficult to get rid of avidya. Just saying Maya doesn't mean we know these things are wrong, but still, why is our mind attracted to the negative things? We know if something will give us trouble ultimately, but we still run after it. So simply by saying it is all avidya, you have to give up, the world does not exist, it's all Maya, you should give up. It is easy to say, but difficult to give up. So Patanjali comes a step down. He says, okay, avidya is the root cause, but what is this avidya? So that is what is being discussed in this sutra, that what brings Prakriti and Purusha together to create this confusion. The Purusha is basically, our real nature is peace, happiness, Sat, Chet, Ananda. We are eternally secure, eternally safe. We have eternal existence. There is no death for us. We are immortal. That is Sat. That is our true nature. Then we have Chit. That is pure consciousness. We never become unconscious. Even death, even while a body goes away, still we are conscious. Something within us is always conscious. We just change the body, change our garments. That is what Gita says. Then why we are not able to understand that? Why can't we realize our true nature as Sat, Chit, and Ananda? And Ananda is ultimate bliss, not the lower Sukha. It is Sukha and Dukkha. We will discuss that now. So, avidya arises only because Purusha gets mixed with Prakriti. Prakriti by nature is made of dualities. Its nature is temporary. It gives you, it binds you, it releases, it frees you also. And because it is creating this problem, the the binding force, the avidya, the that which binds you. Thakur has made a distinction between two types of avidya or two types of vidya, you can say. Vidya means knowledge, but something is preventing that knowledge. One is the vidya which binds you, and another is the vidya which releases you. So, what is there in avidya which binds us and which releases? So, we come to the next step which Patanjali discusses is avidya gives rise to asmita, that is ego. So, only when Purusha and Prakriti confuse each other, confused with each other, the Prakriti, Purusha thinks that it is sad, it is temporary by associating with Prakriti. So, yoga means actually disassociating and identifying with the Purusha. The same thing Vedanta says, you be one with Brahman. Get rid of Maya. Getting rid of Maya means getting rid of avidya. So Purusha and Prakriti, now the question may arise, many people ask this question, then why did Prakriti, what made them come together? So now Vyasa, who has commented on this Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, it's very difficult to understand. He gives a very satisfactory explanation. He says there is a mysterious power which he has classified as three gunas. In Advaita, they don't accept this idea of gunas. It is a typical Sankhya idea which has been borrowed by yoga. So we have the Tamo guna, but Bhagavad Gita accepts. Bhagavad Gita accepts Sankhya, Bhagavad Gita accepts yoga, it accepts Advaita, Vedanta, everything is there in Bhagavad Gita. But in Patanjali, he says it's the three gunas which form Prakriti. Prakriti is a combination of these three gunas is Prakriti. If there is more sattva, you are more free. If there is more tamas, you are more bound. The more tamasic, the percentage of tamas, if it increases, you become more and more gross, more ignorant, more avidya is there. So that is the only explanation they give. Because in Advaita, the Ajnana is there from beginningless time, and once Ajnana goes, you realize Brahman. It is it may be very simple to say, but it is very difficult to attain to that state. How can avidya go? Patanjali is more down to earth. He says no, avidya won't go, because asmita, avidya gives rise to asmita. Asmita is born out of avidya. So avidya has four children, you can say. The asmita, that is ego, raga, dvesha, and abhinivesha. I'm just recapitulating. We have discussed this many times. But anyway, these are the four problems of our mind. Mind means our existential problems, because of which we are now trying to find out what this yoga is and get rid of all our suffering. So dukkha nivarana, which we saw, is the main goal of Vedanta as well as yoga. Even Buddhism. Buddhism says, don't bother whether there is God or there is no God or anything. Just know for certain, if you accept that there is dukkha in this world, and if you want to get rid of dukkha, I'll show you the way. Patanjali shows a different way. He says the reason for dukkha begins, the root is avidya, and that is because avidya is a mysterious power which makes the Purusha feel that it is one with Prakriti. Just as a crystal, in Vedanta they give an example of a crystal and a rose flower. Now a rose flower, if it is brought near the crystal appears to be pink or whatever it be the color of the rose, red or pink or yellow. The color is not in, it's because of its proximity. So here they say the three gunas of the Prakriti, they create all this whether you call it Maya or they create this illusion, the mysterious power of the gunas, they in varying proportions. If tamas is more, rajas is more, you are active, you are less bound, but still you are bound. Only when the sattvic sattva dominates, then you are a little nearer to freedom, nearer to removal of avidya. So, to facilitate understanding of this thing, how it happens in the yoga system, very nicely, it is imaginary, but some explanation has to be given. Patanjali is very rational. He says he just doesn't say that Purusha and Prakriti get confused and you are in Maya, now you are to. But he gives the solution, but he gives the explanation also. So the first step he says, the commentators say, of course, Vyasa says, Purusha and Prakriti, because of this proximity, they come together because of the inherent power of the gunas. So, one of Swamiji's Guru Bhais was known as Trigunatita. Trigunatita means one who is beyond the gunas. When you realize what happens, you are free from the clutches of the three gunas. Three guna tita, atita. Gunas, you go beyond the gunas. So, in a mysterious way, as Patanjali said, this gunas of avidya, they cause the identification with Purusha, and that gives rise to when the light of pure consciousness, that is Purusha, gets identified with avidya, the first product is buddhi. So that is why they say buddhi is the one which is very close to consciousness. So we have to awaken the buddhi. The first thing the mind has to do is to japa, through meditation, through karma yoga, through jnana yoga, all different methods, kriya yoga, which we discussed, how we do it. You have to somehow identify yourself not with the body. I mean, there will be some identification because we have tamas, our body identification will not go till we become free. Whatever little, but it has to be reduced. That is known as tanukarana. So these kleshas, first is avidya, that gives rise to asmita. When asmita means ego. So the fact that this buddhi, which we say it is my buddhi, so your buddhi, another person's buddhi, there are hundreds of purushas according to. Every jiva has a purusha. That is one difference between Advaita and Patanjali's yoga. They say there are multiple purushas. Each one has a conscious entity, and Prakriti also, though it is unified as Mahaprakriti, or you may say Parama Prakriti, which is absolute Prakriti, absolute nature. But for us, we have an individual Prakriti, which is made of three gunas, which are unique to us. So this asmita or ego arises first in the buddhi. Then it comes to manas, then it comes to prana, then you say my body, my ego. But first, my ego is more important. That is why Thakur used to say kacha ami and paka ami. Avidya gives rise to kacha ami. You are identified with so much of attachment, my everything, mamatva and aham. Aham, mama, and mama means mine, and the aham, that is me and mine. That is how gospel says. Thakur is so simple. He says me and mine is the root of avidya. So that is what Patanjali also says. Avidya gives rise to four kleshas. He says it gives rise to four kleshas, not just ego. After identifying with the buddhi, again it branches, or maybe three more problems are created in a human personality: raga, dvesha, and abhinivesha. So he says there is no sixth problem. We only have 5 problems in life. See, Patanjali is so rational, so logical. He makes it so simple. Of course, it is difficult to practice, but easy to understand at least. Oh, he says you deal with these 5 kleshas and you deal with your whole life, all your problems will be solved. How? Then he says, once the asmita has arisen in our mind, in our personality, by the identification of Purusha with Prakriti, depending on our guna, depending on our buddhi. Suppose our buddhi is wonderful, our wisdom, then is sattvic. If it is sattvic, there is more sattva, then our identification with the other things become less and less. So that is the sign of spiritual progress. What do you mean by spirituality? Spirituality means identifying more with the spirit, more with the Purusha than with the Prakriti. So how much of Purusha the identification or the mixing together, if it is too deep, then we become tamasic. The less the gunas have a hold upon us, the body, the external objects, the sense organs, everything, slowly it percolates down, 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 and then we realize that we are less Purusha, more Prakriti. We seem to enjoy it. As long as Prakriti is beneficial to us, we are very happy. That is the cause of our misery. Buddha was very happy. He didn't have any problem. His father, in fact, did not want him to see misery at all. But how long you will hide misery? You can't just play with the sattva guna. He was very sattvic, very good nature, no doubt. He was in the palace. He had a nice wife, nice son. But then the very thought that one day I have to leave this. When he went out, his charioteer showed him one dead body. He said, will I have attained this state? Yes, when you become old, one day you will become sick. So he saw a sick man, he saw an old man, and when he saw a dead man, then he realized this consciousness will go away. So what's the use? How long I can, if consciousness goes away, I mean, if this state comes to me, then I have to find a solution. That made him restless. So this identification by itself is not bad. As long as avidya is there and sattvic avidya is there, for example, and we seem to enjoy the world, everything is kind to us, Prakriti is kind to us, but after a certain time, Prakriti will show the tamasic also. Tamas means destruction. So that a dance of destruction, as Swamiji says, the Kali, the mother. He wrote a beautiful poem. If you see in the beginning, he gives a beautiful situation, scenery, where there is nature, everything is fine, perfumes, rivers, everything. Suddenly he comes to the horror of war. And she says, the same Kali who was so kind, so merciful, suddenly she becomes the destroyer. So that is how tamas, when tamas predominates, the painful side of Prakriti is seen. So then how it comes? How do we access, how do we come across this painful side? That is what is explained by the other three kleshas. That is the cause of our bondage. Raga, Dvesha and Abhinivesha. Now, I am repeating this because it is connected to the next sutra. We will discuss that also, that how avidya comes. It is asmita. For example, I'll just define, because we were discussing sixth sutra, which said Drig Darshana Shaktayoho Ekatmata Eva Asmita. Means egoism or asmita, he has defined. See, he doesn't leave anything to doubt. He is clearly defining what ego is. We just say we have an ego, his ego, her ego. But what does that ego mean? Ego means nothing but apparent identity, Dhruga Darshana, of the power of the seer and the power of seeing. We are the seers, we are seeing the whole drama of the world unfolding before us. But if you get identified with the power of seeing, then there is misery. If you see it as a witness, then there is no problem. It is like watching a movie. Suppose you watch a movie, you are the witness, you are happy. Whatever happens, there is a war also going on. You don't care because you are happy, you are disconnected, detached. But the moment you get attached, emotionally attached to the movie, then you think the characters are connected to you. You feel, you cry. Some people, they get so moved while seeing the movies. If the film is good, they will think that, oh, we are suffering. Then they start crying, and so many things happen because of this identification. That is known as asmita. Apparent, it is not permanent. Everybody doesn't cry in the theater. Those who identify, those who are very gross, they will identify. So the power of seer and the power of seeing, when they identify, that is the technical definition given of asmita. Now we will come to what asmita further gives rise to raga and dvesha. So we'll see what the sutra says. Now, this one more point you have to remember in this asmita of yoga. Asmita, who has this asmita? It is the jiva. Everybody, if the individual soul, I'm not talking of the, because according to yoga, as I said, everybody has, the purushas are multiple. So my personality is made of my purusha and my prakriti, whatever be my prakriti. So the difference between Vedanta and yoga system, it's a very minor difference. It says in Vedanta, jiva is a very important entity. So all the empirical activities that you do, like Gyata, the person who knows. What do you mean by jiva? As a jiva, I know certain things. I am a karta. That is, I am a doer. Every time the ego comes, I don't think somebody else is doing, my body is doing, I am just watching. I never say that, because we are so deep in our attachment, the kleshas are clinging to us. I think I am the Gyata. I said, I know, I am intelligent, I am an idiot. Whatever feeling we get about ourselves is born out of asmita. It is I who think I am a wise man. Then I am a karta. Oh, I have given this, I have done this charity. So many times we use that ego. And bhokta. So all the experiences, what we experience, I experience pain. I am very honest about it. I am getting the headache. My headache, you don't feel that headache. So in yoga, asmita is only, in Vedanta, asmita is very important. That's why Thakur says, if you remove the asmita or ego, everything else goes. But yoga says it is not so easy. In a way, they are also correct, because they go a little lower. They want to be more practical. Because all of us say, I have no ego, but we are full of ego. So asmita, Patanjali goes a one step lower than Vedanta. He says, I understand your problem. You may think that you have no ego, but that ego is not so easy. Of course, Thakur mentioned that. He says, you cut all the roots of the banyan tree, but still it will grow. So ego is like that. No matter how much you try to remove from your personality. So that jiva, according to Vedanta, if you remove the ego, though it is not simple, but Shankaracharya and all expect you to, before even starting the practice of Vedanta, we are supposed to have totally detached with the world. That is why many people complain that Advaita is only for monastics. It's partly true, because if you have hundreds of attachment, how can you understand Advaita? For Shankaracharya, it was very easy to just say that this world is a Maya and just give up. How can you give up the family and all those? So Patanjali is more practical. He says, no, you have to live with your ego. Don't worry, it will slowly go away if you practice yoga. So you remove the other kleshas first, which are more manageable. Ego is not so easy to manage. That will go last, but it is one of the kleshas. So you have to remember, when I talk of aham or ahamkara, Vedanta is totally different. When we are studying yoga, it is one of the kleshas. So kleshas are 5. One is avidya. That is also a klesha according to. So he makes it more manageable. Patanjali says, you can't handle asmita, you can't handle avidya. Don't worry. That will be the last klesha to go. You take care of raga dvesha, at least you can handle. Abhinivesha you can handle. How? We'll discuss that in the next sutra. So here, that distinction, so now you know what is the distinction between asmita. So in yoga, Sankhya and yoga, the ahankara or the avidya or whatever you may say, asmita, sorry, not avidya. Asmita is a part of prakriti. It is a trick, or maybe it is because of gunas, you get a feeling that I am doing this. So, but it is independent of Purusha. In Vedanta. In Sankhya, it is it is closely connected. So the Asmita cannot exist independently of Purusha. It is the light of Purusha which shines as our buddhi. It may be good buddhi, we may have, they say you may have a well-developed buddhi if more sattva is there, or we may have a manda buddhi and you identify with all sorts of gross things and get confused. So that is the slight difference. But now we'll come to raga. What is raga? This is very important because these things Patanjali knew that avidya and asmita are very difficult to remove and understand, even understand. Every day we are feeling this avidya. Somehow it has got an impact on in our life, and also ego causes so many problems. Thakur used to say, once you give up the ego, many things are solved. But for Sri Ramakrishna, he was born without any ego. He was like a child, but we have to struggle to go to that state. But then Patanjali says, don't worry, take care of the other three. Verse number 7, Sukhanushayi Raga. It is a very small definition, but a very big commentary has been written by Patanjali. Ki attachment, the translation I am giving first, is that which follows the experience of pleasure. Now you have to remember, Sukha means we use it so loosely. Sukha is not happiness. Sukha Anushayi Raga. What is Raga? Anuraga or Raga. Anuraga is used in a higher sense. It is used in the sense of bhakti. You have anurag towards the Lord. But you can't say, of course, some Bengali and other languages, they use anurag for even objects, material objects. But the difference between the raga and anuraga is slightly superior attachment, which helps you to be free. So you normally use anuraga in Sanskrit at least. You use it for a special kind of attachment to the Lord, which removes the attachment, which removes your ordinary raga. So here raga has been defined as that which follows the experience of pleasure. Now you see, it is very important to understand. Anushayi means that which follows. So how does raga come? How does attachment comes? Patanjali wants to show you, don't just say don't be attached. It's very easy to say don't be attached, don't be attached. How can I prevent? You tell the child, don't be attached to this chocolate. The child says, I know it is bad, but somehow when I see the chocolate, I feel like eating. So Patanjali says, how to control it? You have to understand the definition of raga. Raga is something which is experienced by us 24 hours, 365 days throughout our life. So we know it. It is nothing mysterious. Raga is something which has been defined as that attachment which follows the experience of pleasure. Sukha, pleasure, not happiness, not bliss. We have to make a difference between bliss and pleasure. Pleasure is always gross. It is of the senses. So the experience of pleasure gives rise to raga. That means all our attachments are samskaras. It is a special vritti, a mental wave. In fact, all our problems are because of the mind. So the vritti which comes when you enjoy, suppose you tell a child, don't eat chocolates. But unfortunately, he has eaten chocolates hundreds of times. Every time he ate, he got some pleasure, and that gave rise to one vritti. Vritti means mental wave. Oh, this is something very nice. So the exact nature of raga, this sutra doesn't tell you, but it is a sort of impulse or instinct. Sukha anushayi, one which follows. So it keeps on gathering in our these experiences. The more vrittis, the more you smoke, the more you eat something, the more the raga becomes. So raga is a product or resultant of something which you have experienced again and again and produced a vritti of pleasure in you. Sukha is just a vritti. And raga is the reaction to that vritti, that which follows pleasure and objectifies it. So raga is not itself an experience. Say, for example, I have eaten a chocolate. While eating, I got some pleasure. But raga is not that. After that, after you finish eating it, the memory of the accumulated memory of the chocolate, even if you see it in a shop, you'll feel like eating it. So the attachment is not an experience. You don't experience raga. Raga is a mental thing. So you have to remember the difference between attachment, raga, and sukha. So sukha or dukkha, whatever it is. But normally raga is of sukha only. It can't be of dukkha. Nobody likes pain. So that is how they define dvesha as, we'll see the definition later, but that which, so this is a very simple definition. I don't want to discuss much, but we'll come to the dvesha. That is another klesha which we have to handle. So the first part of this sutra says that raga comes only to a person who has experienced pleasure. If you don't know what the taste, if you have never tasted cigarette or maybe a chocolate, you don't know what a sweet is, unless you taste it once, twice, thrice, then you get raga. So it comes as an experience pleasure, and the memory of that is raga that causes attachment. So second thing is, we do not just do for the sake of, nobody, maybe the first time when you smoke or when you eat, you just do it because somebody else tells you. But second time, third time when you do, when it becomes a raga, it is done because you have experienced sukha. So that is how we discuss this idea of raga. Now, this raga, very interestingly, has been divided into three parts. You see how meticulously these commentators, of course, this Patanjali just gives the sutra. That is why we want the commentary of Vyasa, who wrote the commentary. He says raga is not as simple to understand as just attachment. We use these words very loosely. Oh, he has raga. But raga, he has divided into three parts. That will show that raga is not such a thing to escape. We say, oh, don't get attached. But how not to get attached? We don't teach the children. We don't even teach ourselves. So to dissect it, to analyze it, he says raga has three, Vyasa says, who commented on this sutra, he says there are three stages in raga. You see, if we understand these three stages, then we understand how to control, how to avoid this raga or attachment. First, he says gardaha, three phases of raga, you can say. Same raga, but it occurs in three parts. One is gardaha, another is trishna. Many of you, those who know vernacular Indian languages, trishna means it is a thirst or craving. So gardaha, trishna, and finally lobha, three parts of raga. Raga is a very complex klesha. To understand it, we have to understand that three things, it can be further divided into three problems which we face. What is gardaha? Garda means an excessive desire before experiencing whatever you like. Of course, sukha anushahi raga. You only like that which gives you pleasure. You don't like that which gives you pain. That is dvesha. We'll come to that later. But now raga, Patanjali's commentators have said, garda means before experiencing the sweet, that excessive desire to somehow pick up that sweet and eat. You saw that there is a marshmallow experiment which was done to children. It's a very, very, very important experiment, which is a part of child psychology. When small children, experiment was, marshmallow is a very nice sweet. Those who have tasted children are very fond of it. So we will understand these three, gardaha, trishna, and lobha. That is the third part of raga. by understanding what this marshmallow experiment is. So one psychologist decided to observe a group of children, very small children, and they were not only studied, but they were continuously monitored, and their database, they saw to it what happens to these children after they grow up. So the first part of the experiment was, and it continued for several years, and then finally they found when they grew up, they became different personalities depending on how they. So even when they were very young, they didn't have any discriminative power, but still the experiment was done. What was done is very simple experiment. They put cameras, of course, and they said, we are leaving the room. The person who was conducting, he told the child, now I am keeping one marshmallow on the plate. Marshmallow is a beautiful, nice sweet. So if you don't eat, we will come after 4 minutes, or 4 or 5 minutes was the time. 3 minutes, I think they were given. Children are very, these things tempt them. So he said, we'll give you 3 minutes. If you don't eat it for 3 minutes, you will get another one. See, there was some carrot hung before them. It's not that they were asked to just not to control themselves. They said, you can eat, but after 3 minutes, after we come, then I will give you one more. And then the cameras were there, and they were just observing every child. So in the beginning, first child, he saw he was not aware that something is being recorded. So after 1 minute, 2 minutes, he found it so difficult, he just took it. Said, I don't want, let me first, I can't control my, because it was just difficult for the child to control. The another child maybe waited for 2 minutes, some 2.5 minutes, but finally he also succumbed. So like that, a large batch was involved in this. And some of them not only sat for 3 minutes, they just, when they came, they were also not in a hurry. Then the next one was given. Even that, they took some time. Then some of them, they were told that you will get one more if you sit for another 3 minutes. So they waited. And then successively they found that some children had the capacity to wait. And finally, this experiment was done. Everything, their names, addresses, everything was taken. They were, when they grew up, a study was done. The people who waited became the most successful in life because they had a lot of self-control. But some of the children, maybe it is a bad samskara their parents had given them. They are helpless. They just could not even wait for 1 minute, or maybe the moment the person left, that child started eating. So they became less successful. So this was done to a large number of children. It became a very famous experiment, marshmallow experiment. And they found that self-control, means control over raga, has a great impact on the child's personality as he grows up. Of course, when he grows up, he will develop self-control. The adults have, at least when they have developed their wisdom, they will definitely wait, because they know if we wait for 3 minutes, we'll get more. They may even wait for 1 hour to get all the sweets. That is a different thing. But this is what this experiment shows. So here, Patanjali says, raga, though it is a very simple thing, sukha anushayi, that which gives pleasure, attachment to that which gives you pleasure. It means it is a feeling. It is not the pleasure itself. Sukha you are getting when you are eating, but raga is that which happens. It happens in 3 phases. Before experience, it is an intense desire to eat the chocolate. Trishna means the craving that comes after the experience, when the experience is lost. Say one is even before you eat, another is after eating, just you have finished, but you still want more, Trishna. And Lobha is the worst. Lobha is the worst form of raga, because it is like, gluttons, how they do. It is, even while experiencing pleasure, he has a desire. He's not even eaten the full chocolate or the desirable object. Before it is over, he's trying to see if he can grab one more. So that is Garda, we understand it is a desire, excessive desire before experience. Even Trishna we can understand. We have just eaten something and the experience is lost. We that is raga. But the worst form of raga is lobha. So this is just a division they have made to show the intensity of raga. So to have the desire for more pleasure, even while it is eating, that is the worst situation. I mean, then something is psychologically seriously wrong when we have more such lobha. If you have Trishna, it is fine because we have tasted. But even if you have the first one, it can be controlled. Gardha can be controlled. That you get an desire to eat. You just tell the mind, no, you will not eat. You may have a desire, you just don't eat. But if the Trishna comes, that means you have already eaten. It is more difficult to control. But if a person has raga in the form of lobha, then it is absolutely difficult to control that kind of raga. That klesha has become very deep rooted. Now we come to the 8th sutra, dukkha anushayi. So we have 5 minutes. I'll just quickly finish this sutra. Then if you have some questions, you can ask. I think, yes, it is 7:55. Dukkha anushayi raga. Same thing. Sukha anushayi raga, dukkha anushayi dvesha. Now, all people, there are many things that we don't like. As I mentioned many times, even in the Gita class, I mentioned it is a simple thing, but it is a very important formative sutras of our life. This Sukhanushayi Raga, Dukhanushayi Dvesha, and then we'll come to Abhinivesha. We'll take it up later. It is defined, Dvesha is defined aversion. It is aversion, the English word, is that which follows the experience of sorrow. Just as the experience of pleasure gives us raga, there are certain experiences which give us dvesha also. Both are equally wrong. Don't think only attachment is wrong. Even hatred is wrong. Every day of our life, you see, one of the kleshas are predominant. We are trying to run after things that we like, trying to avoid things which we might give, which we know is unpleasurable or that will give us sorrow. We know certain things give us sorrow. We dislike certain people. We don't want to be in their company. So we avoid. So we have a dvesha for that person. Now, similarly, just as raga is made of 3 stages, dvesha also is a special vritti which we need to control. That is why they say in the Gita 2nd chapter, Krishna tells, don't have strong likes and dislikes. Just accept whatever comes. You see, there are some children, wonderful nature. They are so nice. Maybe the training that has been given to these children, and it continues when they are youthful also. They are fine with whatever they are given. Whatever, even Thakur's life, other day we read. One day Thakur was saying, early morning when he was in Kamarpukur, Holy Mother was very young, and there were Lakshmi also used to cook very nice dishes. So he had come to perhaps Jairam Bhatti, or maybe Holy Mother had come to Kamarpukur, yes, in his house. That was the first time. And then every day, early morning, he just to show us, of course, he didn't have these things, attachment. He used to get up and say, today you prepare this. And then they'll say, we don't have this. Then, no, you go to the market, get it. I will take this. He did it for 2-3 days. And they cooked whatever he wanted, because he said, then one day he said, what a terrible condition I am in. Early in the morning, I get up and the first thing I think is of food. I want this, I want that. Then from that day, he was so disgusted. He said, no, tomorrow I'll eat whatever you prepare. I'll not tell you what to prepare. You prepare whatever you like. Whatever you serve me, I will eat. I have told my mind, don't. So that is what raga dvesha is to be avoided. Abhinivesha is a very big topic. We'll come to that, because that is also a very important klesha. If we handle raga dvesha, it is a special vritti which follows the experience of pain. And and naturally nobody likes pain. So we are averse. We have a dvesha. We hate certain things in life. We like certain things which we we are attached to certain things that we like. We are detached, or we are running away from things that we don't like. So likes and dislikes, how it creates an impact on our life. So now the synonyms of dvesha, I'll just mention that and we'll conclude. We have still 2 minutes. So the synonym, just as we have Gardha, Lobha, and Trishna, here also in dvesha also we have 3 stages. All hatreds are not similar. We have three types of synonyms of dvesha, 3 stages you can say. One is pratigha. Pratigha is a technical word. It is that desire to retaliate. Some people not only dislike, but they are so aggressive. Their desire is born. No, I don't want. I have to retaliate. Manyu is a slightly less. It is malice. You don't like a person. You develop a secret. You detest that person, but you don't retaliate. You just tolerate that person. It very often happens when we say we are our manners do not permit us to express our retaliate or express our anger. We don't have pratigha, but we have manyu. We have a malice. Secretly, we hate that person. Even that is dangerous, but it is less dangerous. At least you don't retaliate. And then it is jighansa. Jighansa is another word. There are 4 stages here. Jighansa is vindictiveness. You are vindictive. You may not show anger, but somehow you are so vindictive, you just don't have malice towards that person, but you see to it that something bad happens to him because you hate him or hate her. So that is not just, it's a mental, see, he has analyzed how dvesha can be harmful. First, it is a desire to retaliate. Then that may give rise to, you may or may not retaliate. But you have malice. That's a secret, a subtle kind of ill will towards somebody. And you are always thinking that this person is, I don't like. So you are not happy with that person. And jighansa, which is another word which Vyasa gives, is vindictiveness. You are always looking out how to harm that person. That is because of dvesha. Because anything, not it can be a person, it can be an object. You have a vindictive, you just don't want that thing. If it is an insect, you just want, you are averse to that, you just want to. And then comes krodha. When you, it is not just aversion for specific objects or persons, but in jighansa can be towards life also. See, that is another important thing. Sometimes it is objective, sometimes it's subjective also. We have a hatred towards we get angry on ourselves. Krodha. Krodha means we somehow don't like. We just want, we are not satisfied. It is existing towards life in general. This feeling of anger or vindictiveness. Every time you see it's that person is always negative. He is always vindictive without any reason. The person, that desire always he wants to, he is very reactive in nature. So he has very strong dislike. So wherever he goes, that person is very unhappy because he has this dvesha. The dvesha is a general term. Pratigha, desire to retaliate, always that desire is uppermost. Moment he gets a chance, he will retaliate. Or he is always having malice, gives rise to this. These kleshas are what make our life miserable. And then we have jighansa, the vindictiveness. We may not harm, we will make sure that that person is harmed. And we get joy out of it because we hate that person. So that is, and then finally, when we can't do any of these 3, then comes anger. We don't know whom to get angry. There are people, when they just come home from work, maybe they are angry with their boss or somebody else, but they will take out the anger on somebody else. There's no specific object, specific person involved. Everybody is nice to you, but it's a state. You have a krodha towards, you do not know whom to get angry on. That it is bubbling in us. So that is dvesha. And then we will come to abhinivesha in our next class. If there is some question, you can just ask. Yeah, there is one question from Sukha. Nice name you got. Anyway, initially, in order to overcome the kleshas, should we, for example, prioritize asmita over avidya or try to deal with them all to all? No, it is not that you have to deal with them. There is priority, of course, is to get rid of the ego, but we have to deal with them as according to our capacity. You see, for first of all, let us take the easiest things which we can handle. That is why avidya and asmita, Patanjali says avidya gives rise to asmita, ego. Since we can't handle those, there is no question of priority. Whatever troubles us, we have to handle. If we are wise enough, then we catch we try to reduce the ego itself, then raga dvesha will go. But if we can't do that, if our ego is very strong, at least let us, for our own welfare, we can get rid of the raga and dvesha. And I have not yet discussed the abhinivesha, which is another major klesha, which is the root cause of many of our problems. Raga is root cause of some problems. Dvesha is root cause of some other problems, especially the things that we don't like. But abhinivesha is another strange klesha, which is in general fear. We do not know. It is a secret or it is a subtle anxiety towards what we don't know. It is a strange fear of death, fear of clinging to life. That is very difficult to remove. At least raga, desha you can handle. But we'll discuss. It's a nice question that you have asked. But there is no priority. Whatever comes, you take. If raga is a problem, handle it. If dvesha is a problem, and try to overcome that. If ego is a problem, try to reduce it. There's no option or no priority in this. You take whatever you uh, confront, whatever troubles you, you handle it. So you have to do some firefighting. Anyway, thank you. So I'm taking your leave today and maybe we'll meet on Saturday. I'll let you know whether it is Gita or whether it is Holy Mother's. No, we have Gita and the Vedanta and the science of uh, Vedanta and the science of human possibilities, which is the alternate class. I'm not very sure whether Gita is there next Saturday, but anyway, I'll let you know. So I take your leave. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.